Hey guys, welcome back. It's Candy here. Time for another book video. Funny thing is I am actually on my second from the last day of filming the Reading 7 Romance Books in 7 Days challenge. And I'm like, I never filmed an intro for this video. So I'm like 20 pages away from finishing the 6th book, and then I have one more book that I'm going to start tonight and read into tomorrow to finish it up. That's kind of how my cycle's been working. I start probably around 8 o'clock at night, nearly finish a book, and then wake up the next day, work, do all my chores, things I need to do, and then finish that book up like before dinner time. And that's usually when I sit down and film my little review for you guys. So that's how this video is going to work. I think the fun thing that I did with this video is I shared my review and my thoughts on the book immediately after I read it, rather than like, let's sit down on day 7 and try to remember all 7 books that I read the past week. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I am loving filming it. However, reading a book in 24 hours is not easy. It's like fun because you're like, I have to read this. I have no choice. So you have an excuse. You have to read. But at the same time, it's a little stressful. Whoa, I was not expecting that ending. So, book 1 is Fool Me Twice by Carrie Aarons. And this was actually a book that I ended up buying because Carly said she had seen someone make a TikTok on it and she thought it sounded really good. And then she showed me the TikTok and I was like, ooh, that does sound good. It was really good. Really, really good. I'm happy I read it. I started this last night, probably about 11 o'clock. I read probably half of it last night, and then I read some throughout the day today, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm gonna give this 5 stars. I feel like those of you that are younger, like in your 20s, would especially love this because it is a story of 2 teens that are in college. So basically, it is about this girl, Henley, and her friend, just before her 18th birthday, passes away from cancer. Well, before she died, they made this bucket list with things on it like go skinny dipping, travel to Paris, and a lot of those things the girl had crossed off her bucket list before she passed away. But then there were things on her bucket list that she didn't get to cross off, like dye my hair, have sex, camp out in a tent, go bungee jumping, and lastly, get revenge on Lincoln Kolb. It's actually, that part's on the back of the book, so I'm not giving away any spoilers. So Henley is so committed to completing this bucket list that she actually goes to the college, like becomes a student at the college that Lincoln is going to. And the reason why she wants to get revenge on Lincoln is because he had broke her friend's heart. So that's why it was on her bucket list to like pay him back. Predictable, little bit, yes. But it is written really, really well. And it does, it says swoon-worthy and sarcastic, and that perfectly describes this book. There's so much like sarcasm and wit, fun, flirty, hot, steamy moments in this book. You're off to a great start. All right, so I just finished One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid last night. This is book 2 of my 7 books. And I loved this book. It was so good. And I think I loved it because it was so real. I mean, this isn't probably a very common thing that happens, but just the idea that there's the possibility that someone could go through this and like, you just question, like, how would this really play out? Of course I cried again for this book. Like, holy crap, the ending was just, oh. Okay, so the story is about Emma. I'm not going to give any spoilers. All this that I'm going to share with you is on the back of the book, okay? I'll never spoil books for you guys. So Emma marries her high school sweetheart, Jesse, and they build this amazing life. They move to California. She's a writer. He's a production assistant for these documentaries. So it's their first wedding anniversary, and Jesse has to leave for an assignment for work. and he flew to the location, hops in a helicopter, and the helicopter goes missing. It's time to assume that Jesse is dead. So Emma ends up quitting her job, moving back home, working for her parents' bookstore, and she ends up reconnecting with Sam, who was a friend that she had met in high school right before her and Jesse started dating. So as time goes on, they fall in love, and 3 years later, Sam proposes to Emma and she accepts. Like, she's happy, her heart's fulfilled, she's ready to start a new life with Sam. Guess what happens? Jesse returns. That part of it was almost like a little bit unbelievable because you hear all about like what happened, where's he been for the last 3 years. I won't spoil any of that because it is interesting. However, Jesse's back and he wants to pick up his life where he left off. Him and Emma are still married. He wants to be with his wife. And Emma's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I have this fiance that I'm head over heels in love with, but I can't believe, like, I'm so overjoyed that my husband is still alive. What in the heck is she going to do? And that's how everything plays out in this book. I just feel like her writing is so real. You just feel every emotion. I feel like this is one of those books that's really easy to read, and I a lot of times get messages from you guys through Instagram saying, I would love to get into reading. I just don't know what to read. Where do I start? What's going to help me really get interested in reading? And I feel like this is one of those books. Add this to your list, pick this up, must read. It's the next morning. This is what I have left of this book. And oh my gosh, I want to be Abby's friend. I just love her writing. Her personality has to be so much fun for her to have these thoughts in her head to write books like this. So good. I can guarantee it doesn't even matter how this book ends. I'm going to be giving it 5 stars. All right, guys, I just finished Part of Your World, and I think this is my new favorite book of the year. It is so good. Okay, so basically it starts out, this girl, Alexis, she's an emergency room doctor and she is loaded. She comes from a long line of physicians. Her family name is actually on the hospital that she works at. So she's driving down the road one night, a raccoon runs across the road. She swerves to miss hitting the raccoon, ends up in a ditch. So along comes Daniel. He ends up using his truck to pull her out of the ditch. So then Alexa stops at the VFW to get something to eat before she heads back home, which is like another 2-hour drive. And there her and Daniel meet, talk, go back to his place so he can cook her dinner and other stuff. So Alexis ends up falling in love with the small town that Daniel lives in. It's just the cutest, most quaint town with like the nicest people. And Daniel actually runs this Airbnb for this house that his family has owned for years. So these two people actually have these like family legacies that they're carrying on, but their lives are so different from each other. Alexis is rich, lives in a mansion, just comes from money. Daniel, on the other hand, exact opposite. Of course, they have this chemistry, they fall for each other, but how are they going to figure out what's next? Like, Alexis can't leave her job, she has this family name to carry on. Daniel can't leave, his heart is with the town that he lives in and all the wonderful people there, and I don't even know if that I feel like I'm not even doing it justice because it's just so good. I wish I could read it all over again. I'm really nervous about the next book I'm gonna read because it's no way it's going to live up to what I just got done reading. And at the end, Alexis actually has a friend named Bree, and it says, stay tuned for Miss Bree's story coming in spring 2023. Loved this so much. I can't believe all 3 books I've read so far are 5-star. They're all so good, but this is definitely my favorite. Hey guys, it's me. I'm back. Not that you knew I left. So the whole reading 7 romance books in 7 days, I did not do it in 7 consecutive days because of the 4th of July holiday. I took off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday because I knew I wasn't going to do any reading. We had cookouts, family gatherings, fireworks shows to go to, etc. I started back up Tuesday, July 5th, and I read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, not sure. Anyways, Ashley is an author of young adult books, and this is her first like adult novel. And I would have to say I kind of considered this a young adult book. Just the way it was written, the subject matter. I can kind of see why they're gonna say it's adult, not young adult, but I think the younger generations would enjoy this book probably a little bit more than I did. It's a supernatural adult romance. I don't think that there's really anything in here that would make it like rated R, that young adults can't read this, just in my opinion. So basically you have Florence, who is a ghostwriter for these really popular romance novels. However, she is past her deadline for her latest novel, and her new editor will not give her an extension on the deadline. So her new editor, of course, is super hot, and she ends up kissing him within like 24 hours of meeting him. And the story starts out really good. It's just happened, lots of interesting stuff happening. Then it all kind of comes to a halt because she has to go back home where she hasn't been for like 10 years because her dad passed away suddenly. So her family runs this funeral business. Her mom, her dad, and her younger sister all work for the funeral home. She and her family is really well known and has a good reputation. However, 10 years ago, she kind of got a bad reputation because she can actually see ghosts. So she actually had solved this crime, worked with the police, admitted to being able to see ghosts, and she never could get away from that. People would just constantly make fun of her. She was just known as the girl who talks to ghosts. Everybody thought she was weird. So she basically fled town, which it worked out fine because her career took her to the big city where she again became this ghostwriter. So she's back home, and you get to hear all about like her relationship with her younger sister, who's kind of mad at her for a bunch of reasons. And she has a brother as well. And then her relationship with her mom is a little weird. Everything about the book is kind of like fun and quirky and really interesting. But then when you really stop and think, you're like, where is the storyline going? Like, she's planning the funeral for her father, but there's like a lot of other stuff happening. Like, you're just kind of confused at like what direction this is supposed to be going. And it gets a little flat for a while. And for that reason, I only rated this book 2.5 stars. Now, I really do feel like if you like the words coming out of my mouth and those things interest you, the book is really written nicely. Like, I love the writing. I just didn't love the overall. There's so much more that could have been done with the like plot of the story, and it just didn't go anywhere. In the ending, it was a nice bow on top of, you know, the gift wrap bow on top. Like, it worked, but it still could have just, I felt, been so much better. So out of all the books I've been reading so far for the 7 romance books in 7 days, this one just was not anything compared to the 3 that I have read so far. So again, for that reason, 2.5, just don't love it. Don't hate it, but don't love it. I have this much left of Confess. I'm about to go in for my hair appointment, and I'm literally bringing this with me because I'll probably be able to finish it while my color's processing. But holy crap, this book is so good. Wow, is all I can say. I just finished Confess. I had like 20 pages left. I read a little bit at the hair salon, came home and finished while I was eating my salad for lunch. I think this is my new favorite Colleen Hoover book, romance. Verity is still my favorite of all of her books I've read so far. So Confess is about a girl named Auburn who her boyfriend actually passes away at like 15, 16 years old. So her life just isn't going all that great. She ends up moving to Dallas, and as she's walking down the street in Dallas, I believe it's like 5 years later, she wanders into this like art studio, and she meets this guy Owen, and she just thinks he's amazing, gorgeous, so kind. He's a great artist. Confess, the name actually comes from the way Owen creates his art is he has people write confessions, use people's confessions, and create these really beautiful pieces of art. And in this book, it actually has like some of his art. So even though Auburn has gone through this tragic thing in her past, she swears she's never gonna be able to fall in love again, and she falls for Owen. She tries really hard not to. So there's all these reasons that Aubrey and Owen kind of can't be together, but they want to be together, and the odds are against them, and everybody else in their lives is kind of against them being together for so many different reasons. So it's kind of like that whole forbidden love trope, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. There was somebody, and I'm sorry I don't remember what your name is, but DM'd me through Instagram and said they swear that Colleen Hoover puts drugs in her books. That when you read her books, you're just so addicted and you feel so full of emotion. I don't know, and it's like your heart comes alive and then your heart breaks when their hearts break. And there is definitely something with her books that is like just amazing. So I definitely gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Ends perfectly. Like, I couldn't ask for anything more. And I did not have the ending figured out at all. There was this connection. Owen knew Auburn from her past, but you don't ever find out why until the end. And everything that I thought that their connection might have been, I was completely wrong. And it was just so... my heart. Of course I cried. Anyways, if you're thinking of trying out a Colleen Hoover book and you don't know what one to start with, I recommend Confess, because I'm not gonna get over these characters. So I'm just hanging out here in the bedroom. Finished reading this book here on the Chase Lounge. I don't use this chair enough, and it's just so stinking comfortable. Anyways, of course, I had to cry a couple chapters ago. Lease on Love, Fallon Ballard. This book, when I was reading it, it just felt like a really sweet, tender, kind, loving, beautiful story. It's not like, let's compare it to a Colleen Hoover book. It's not like her in the sense that her books are always like so intense, like all this emotions build up usually between the two main characters, and then like something happens at the end that changes everything. There's usually some twist and it's so dramatic and unexpected. This has a twist at the end. You kind of know that it's coming. Just feels so sweet. Sweet is the best word that I can think of. I just feel like I can't give it 5 stars because it wasn't like, this isn't a book that I would tell my friends that read like, oh my gosh, you have to read this book. It's so good. Like, you're missing out if you don't read it. But it's like better than a 4-star book because it's really good. So basically it's about this girl, Sadie, who ends up getting fired from her job. Here she's in this meeting. She thinks she's going to get promoted, and they end up giving the promotion to somebody else. She blows up, says a bunch of cuss words, and ends up getting fired. So her whole plan to finally like pay off her college student loans, get ahead financially, just blows up all in one day. So she's just like desperate to have a fun weekend, gets on her phone, gets on a dating app, and schedules a date for like a Saturday afternoon for just coffee. So she shows up for this date, and it ends up, it wasn't a date at all. It was a roommate app, like an app where you're trying to find a roommate. Like you want to move in with somebody to save on rent because it's in New York City. She ends up being intrigued and going to see this guy's brownstone. His name's Jack, and he's really kind of mysterious. He doesn't give any details about his life, but Sadie really doesn't even notice. She doesn't notice how attractive he is. She doesn't notice really anything about him, but she literally falls in love with his brownstone. So she decides to move in with him because the rent is like super affordable, and this kind of gives her a start to her plan B, which is to start her own business instead of getting back into the corporate world. And I'll tell you, the whole time I'm reading, and you just know that this guy is gonna actually be like better than he seems, I'm like, when is she going to start showing interest in this guy? So his parents had died like 7 years ago. He's just got a ton of secrets, so he doesn't really share a whole lot. Sadie's other friends end up meeting him and they all hit it off, so he kind of becomes part of their little friend group. And just the way the relationship ends up progressing between Sadie and John is just so cute. Like, it literally makes you want to have a roommate, want to live in New York City, and want to get fired from your job just so you can start this like a cute little business. Even though they're totally opposite from each other, probably not good for each other, of course, a little romance starts to spark. And I won't share any more. It's just such a cute story. I highly recommend it. Again, I don't know why I'm being selfish and not giving it a 5 out of 5. I just feel like I've read better books, but you know, you kind of always expect the unexpected when you read a book, and maybe I'm just holding it to that standard. Anyways, for that reason, I'm giving it a 4.5. I definitely recommend for people who love romance novels. This one is just too cute. Hey guys, so for the last book I read, Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. It's 2 separate authors. They're known for their romance novels. I read this on my Kindle. I have the Kindle Paperwhite, and I always get questions about what Kindle I have, which one I recommend. I love this one. This is just a case that I put on it. This is what it looks like without the case. I picked out the plum color. I will link this down below and the case. They have a lot of different designs. With Amazon Prime Day being later this week on the 12th, I'm sure they're gonna have some amazing deals on the Kindle if you've ever wanted to get one. I had the one with ads. Basically, it just means when you turn it on, you see ads for different books. It doesn't bother me at all. I just ignore them, really. And I do the Kindle Unlimited membership, which is $9.99 a month. And then any of the books under Kindle Unlimited you get for free. And like Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating was one of those books. I was just in the mood to read a book on my Kindle for this last one. I definitely can read a lot faster on a Kindle. I'm not quite sure why, but I do. So this book, I give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed reading it. It was fun. It was quirky. It's obviously about Josh and Hazel, who met way back in their college days and then many years later are reunited. Hazel is a 3rd grade teacher, and she just has a really outrageous, kind of crazy personality, does and says a lot of things that would be kind of a little not normal, I guess, normal to society. And Josh is a physical therapist. He's more reserved. His life is a little bit more organized. He's only had like a handful of relationships in his entire life. So they basically have the classic just friends relationship, and you get to learn all about these dates that they keep setting up each other on. Like, she introduces him to people she knows that are single and vice versa. And they're just kind of like fun, sort of disastrous dates. And then the whole time they kind of start noticing they're developing a little bit of feelings for each other, but they always just constantly say like, I'm not dateable, we're not right for each other, that kind of situation. So it's just really fun to read all about these little dates that they set each other up on as you watch them sort of fall for each other. So it's a really cute book. I feel like it's typical Christina Lauren. It wasn't my favorite by them. I really love the book Love in Other Words, and I loved the Unhoneymooners as well. I feel like those were better than this one, but for a free read on my Kindle, I'll take it. It was good. Read it in a day, and it was entertaining. Hopefully you guys like this video. It was a lot of fun to try to read a book in a day and then share the review with you guys. Let me know down in the comments below if you want more videos like this or any other videos that you'd like to see here on my Book Sundays. It's my favorite day of the week right now, so I really appreciate you guys watching these videos. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.